don't build a product that you want, build a product that the customer wants. Because if you're a leader of a business or a small business owner, if you don't inspire your team and you don't encourage and require your teams to deliver what the customer wants, not just what they want or what you want, you won't be successful. So it's not about you, get what the customer wants, but at the same time, make it about you and make sure that your team delivers what is needed to deliver for the customer.
So, welcome to episode 2 of Leading with Relevance. This is about people busting through the status quo and impacting their companies and their communities. Our goal for the listeners is practical insights that you can apply to your leadership path. I'm Tino Mantella, Chief Strategy Officer for Relevance, and I'm loving the opportunity to speak to leaders and learn from them. Each podcast will run about 15 minutes, but then we will also have another piece of it that you can pick up if you're interested. We're calling it Relevant Overtime, so you'll be able to find that on our website. I'm particularly excited to be talking to my friend, Barry McCarthy, today. A little bit about Barry. He's a best-selling author, Emmy-nominated producer, Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, Silicon Valley Startup CEO, Fortune 1000 CEO, President and CEO of Board of Directors of Deluxe, committed to the community, also a family man. Barry, welcome.
Thanks, Tino. Great to be here. You flatter me with all of that. Thank you.
You are working and you have sat in lots of places where you've seen small businesses start up, and you and I know that most of them don't succeed. Mm-hmm. I guess I want to ask you about the similarities and differences in running a startup and a big company, and if those skills are, and you started to mention that, if they're transferable. Are they transferable? You and I have seen leaders when I was stationed near Georgia Tech running TAG. I got to see a lot of folks that started a business, and you'd see their name as CEO, and then 6 months later they'd be head of product or head of strategy, because they probably either weren't that interested or couldn't make that transition. So talk a little bit about that, similarities and differences.
So I think there are far more similarities than differences. At the very core, Tino, at the very core of any business is solving a problem for a consumer, whether that consumer is an individual, whether it's another business, whether it's a community, a government. It's solving the problem for that consumer. And that's how most small businesses get started, is trying to solve a problem. And those businesses ultimately can turn into large businesses. But I think the thing that I learned the most at P&G was to really deeply understand what a consumer needs. And this is really hard for a business, no matter how big or small it is to be focused on what does the customer actually want, not what you think they want, not what you want them to want, but what do they actually want? And I think businesses of all sizes struggle with that. And sort of the most common mistake I've seen in my career is people focusing on the product, not the problem, or what the issue was that the customer wanted to solve. Solving a problem the business owner or the big business wanted to solve, not the problem that the customer wanted to be solved.
In a big company, how do you get people back on track to actually listen to the consumer? Because I know that you're doing that all the time at Deluxe now.
It is not a natural tendency for most companies, right, or most people. The natural tendency is to think that you know the market, the customer, and to do it your way. And we've done at Deluxe and previously a number of different things, from having customer focus groups, work groups, or technology groups, to really deeply understand the product. But what's really important is not only to talk to customers, but actually observe them using the product. So whether you've written a piece of software, it's really important to watch how a customer actually uses it. If you have built a shampoo product, it's probably pretty important to see somebody get their hair washed to understand how the product actually gets used. Otherwise, you're making guesses, not really understanding. And I think in companies that I've been part of along the way, by giving many employees the opportunity to interface and experience and understand how a customer thinks, it becomes a new muscle and it becomes a very natural thing for people want to do. Um, and at our company, user groups have been particularly helpful for that, understanding how our customer actually uses a product. And once you understand that you can actually answer the questions for the problems you're trying to solve, um, our teams want to have more of those interactions and more of those conversations. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling cycle.
Let's switch gears a little bit, and because I know you have a strong work ethic, but you've also made time to be involved with the community locally here in the Atlanta area, Woodruff Arts Center. I know you were involved and have been involved with Technology Association of Georgia, Catholic Charities, and the National Front, National Urban League, and many other things. How do you balance that in terms of let me ask you another way, how important is community involvement to you and even to the company?
To start with really personal side of this, Tina, we talked about at the very beginning, growing up in a family with great parents and a commitment to the broader community, you learn that our lifetime impact isn't just about making money or just about work. It's about giving back. Because at the end of the day, we only have great communities that we all get to enjoy because people like us invest and commit to make those things happen. They don't happen by accident. So somebody needs to step up and really drive and provide leadership. And I feel like that's a responsibility for all of us. And especially as business leaders with access to significant resources, we have extra responsibility. So it's incredibly important to me personally. Second, I think for a company that has been successful like ours for 109 years, and think about that, this company existed before the First World War. We've seen a number of pandemics. We've seen two world wars. Go through the list. Companies can make a 109-year journey because they're committed not only to do great things for the consumer or their customer, they're committed to help the community thrive. And so it's important for companies to give back because it's important to employees, it's important to the community, and it helps drive a cycle of success. And so our company, we're really clear that our mission is to help businesses succeed so communities can thrive. We see our fundamental role in the economy is provide products and services that help businesses succeed. And in our case, that's printed products and payment products like credit card payments, digital AR and AP, and data management and analysis services. Customers use those products to succeed. And when they succeed, they hire more people, which means there's more resources for roads and parks and schools and healthcare, which makes it a community more attractive for more people to want to open a business there, which creates more jobs and it becomes a positive self-fulfilling cycle. And that only happens when there are great jobs from great companies that give back and make the community succeed. And then you've got an incredible ecosystem, an incredible community that sustains itself and grows over time.
I was going to ask this question later, but in terms of the importance of there's a movement now. There's several movements, but I know you're familiar with conscious capitalism, for one. And do you see companies and leadership? It sounds like your leadership there's I'll say a double purpose. One is your bottom line, your responsibility to your shareholders, your stakeholders. But then a second purpose in terms of, what's the impact beyond the bottom line? And, how are, I'll say the younger generations, the millennials and the Zs and all kind of embracing that? How important is it, for you to have, let me say, if you believe in that, like the double purpose of bottom line impact to the shareholders in terms of financial, but then also a second bottom line?
So I think that is an incredibly insightful question to point, which is we're now in an era where maybe 20 years ago, the only thing that counted on a company scorecard was really the shareholder performance. And be really clear, Tino, I work for shareholders.
Right.
If shareholders don't like my performance, I'm not going to be here. So it's about delivering performance for shareholders, but how you deliver that performance is more important than ever. And that means it has to be in an environmentally sustainable way. It means it needs to be good for the community, and that it helps the company succeed. Back to that cycle, that self-fulfilling cycle. If the community doesn't deliver great, capable workers, there's no workers to employ, which means your business can't grow. So it's all tightly interconnected. Um, I think it's even more important for the next generation that is just coming up now. They understand that perhaps much better than any previous generation, the connection between a business success, the community success, and how they're dependent upon each other for the long-term viability and success of both. And so I think that calls all of us as leaders to have that responsibility. Um, but again, make no mistake, we're here for shareholders
Right.
and the community, and they have to both succeed in order for both of us to succeed.
You think for your employees, I won't say younger employees, even though I just said that, so I guess I did say it, but that they're actually the retention rate might be better. Are they looking for, what is Deluxe doing for the community? How do you approach that?
I absolutely do. And one of the things that we have added as a new benefit for all Deluxers is something that we think is pretty unique. It's called volunteer time off, or VTO. So every employee has the opportunity to donate up to 5 full days of our work days to a not-for-profit organization to help the community succeed.
That's great.
So we pay people to go work at a not-for-profit for up to 5 days in a calendar year. And as a result, we give away tens of thousands of hours every year, not give away, invest those tens of thousands of hours annually in our communities. And I think our employees really appreciate it. It is a true visible commitment to the community that we continue. And we marry that up with our foundation, where employees can have matching donations to not-for-profits of their choice. So we not only provide time, we provide talent, and we provide treasure to help not-for-profits and the community succeed. It requires all three: time, talent, and treasure.
That's fantastic. Um, I always like to ask leaders about work-life balance and their philosophy on that. I have my own philosophy, but I know you spend time in addition to community with your lovely wife, Jean Ann, and your children, grown children now. And you have this big business responsibility. So how do you approach life from an example of, something has to give, or how do you feel about that?
I think everyone struggles with trying to have a full and complete life, that is enriching on multiple parameters. I actually wrote part of a chapter on this in the book, and I don't know that there is really such a thing as work-life balance. I think it's work-life integration. It's finding a way to make all parts of your life fit together in a way that's fulfilling and rewarding and enriching. Um, I think it's a false dynamic to think about either or. I can have a rich personal life, or I can have a great professional life, or I can have a great professional life, or I can give to the community, or I can give to the community, or have a great personal life. That's why I think it's important to think about all the different parts of your life and how you put them together in a meaningful way. And so maybe that means that you need to look at going to a fundraiser on a Saturday night as your date night. Maybe you'd rather go to a movie, but you're going to go to a fundraiser on a Saturday night with your spouse, partner, and you're going to use that as your date night. And that's a way to integrate your life. Um, Being involved in things that you really care about doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like an opportunity. And I think it's about how do you put the pieces of the puzzle together in a meaningful way that provides you a rich life. And the more people focus on it as either or, the more they miss the point that you can never get that right. You can never get that right. So put them together in a meaningful, comfortable way. Think about all the parts, and then devote the time and your talent and resources in a way to make that all happen.
That's well said. I mean, I hope that a lot of people listen to that, because I think that's a great message. And there's too much separation between work and life. Like, work is something that's the burden, and you're just doing that to live the rest of your life. So well said, Barry. I'm going to shift a little bit more to the business side. So you've said you don't see check printing, for Deluxe, for example, you don't see a check printing company, but a payments company. And that speaks to me in terms of part of your transformation that you've been building since you've been there and even prior to you. So there's lots of ways to approach that. Changing the internal culture, building your team, building the external brand, doubling down on new technologies. And I know you could say all of the above, but if you were thinking about them in terms of the most important things for a company, because people are listening that are building their companies in respect to transformation, and we're all going through some type of transformation. How would you frame that?
First of all, I would agree with you that all of those are important.
Right.
But the number one thing, Tino, is people and the team. Because if the people on the team don't buy in and see a need for change, they will resist the change and they'll do everything they can to stick to what they've always done. So it's important that you set the tone, that you set the goals clearly so that people understand that the goal is change. The goal is not to do what you've always been doing the same way. The goal is change to get a different outcome. And in our case, when you've got a 109-year-old company, super successful company, the company is very profitable, but it hadn't been growing organically in at least a decade before I came there. And some people think it was back until 1996. It doesn't matter when it was, Tino, the company wasn't growing. And the reason it wasn't growing is it hadn't expanded beyond its core business, which was really around printed products in a meaningful way to get scale. And so had to bring the organization along to understand that even though the company had tried many different things, bought many different companies, they had not yet achieved the notion of self-sustaining growth. And so that requires a different sales approach. It requires a different marketing approach. It requires new technology. It requires new products. It means that you have to stop doing a bunch of things in order to create the window and the space to do more things. And none of that happens without people. So if you can't get the right people in the right seats, committed and understanding the goal is change, you're not going to get where you're trying to go. And I would tell you, I don't think it's a job that's ever done. I don't care how innovative or how much a company's supported by change. It's a very natural human response to try to stick to what I did yesterday and just do it the same way today, or maybe slightly better. But companies in transformation are really trying to recreate themselves for the next generation, have to think very materially different and jump past what they're doing today to a different tomorrow.
Yeah, we used to say when I ran the Chicago YMCA's, you have to change the people or change the people, but that's
Yes.
that's
Uh-huh.
and we had to do some of both. But your effort to bring people along and maybe the message of, you know, what it how open do they need to be in terms of change, and what's your style in terms of giving people that shot? There might be good people, but they might be blocked or been doing something the same way for so long. But I know you've been great about building leadership, not just building companies.
It's kind of comment, Tino, but when I started at Deluxe, one of the very first things we did was inspire people to actually believe they could make the change. I think if you haven't been part of something like that before, it seems daunting, maybe it seems impossible. So we had a series of bi-weekly sprints, just like you would do an agile. The company wasn't operating in an agile environment, but we pretended like we did to, at the very beginning, put together a series of 2 week sprints. So every other week, teams would get together to report on their progress. And the goal was not to have revolutionary progress, it was to be able to make fast, rapid change and to be able to take small steps, one step after another, after another, after another, and to report to each other. This is the senior most folks in the company, about the top 100 people. And we would report to each other every other week in an open line about what the progress you've made. And no one wanted to show up at that meeting without green on their scorecard. So there was always a big burst of activity to make sure that they could report their progress. And then it became a point of pride. And then it became momentum where people believed, hey, I can actually take a couple of small steps. I don't have to boil the whole ocean today. Let's just be successful on one small thing. And next week, let's focus on one more and one more and one more. And once you believe you can do it and you start building that success, you start building momentum and people believe, and then they start taking even bigger steps that are more bold.
So you've made a lot of progress there at Deluxe, as you talked about the organic growth. I had read hadn't been there since '96. Now your last 3 years, you've had organic growth, if I have that right.
Yep.
And so moving forward, I don't want to say what's your biggest challenge, but what's the biggest opportunity for Deluxe?
Well, we've recently announced a resegmentation of the company to make it even more clear. So today we have a print business, which is our legacy check business, but also forms and promotional merchandise that we actually physically print. And we have three areas of business: the payments and data business, that are growth businesses. We've got a merchant business helping small to mid-sized businesses accept credit cards. We have a B2B payments business that is focused on digitizing accounts receivable and payable. We have a very large scale data business where we help businesses market and target and find their next customer. And so it's continuing the investment in growth in the payments and data business while balancing and keeping our legacy print businesses that are incredible cash generators healthy and vibrant for the long term. And so managing that balance, investing for the future and growth in payments and data while keeping our legacy businesses healthy and robust, I think are the sort of the biggest overall challenge. And then, of course, in each of the individual businesses, there are individual business challenges, but really love our strategy and super proud, Tino, it's working. We're in our fourth consecutive year now of organic growth. That hadn't happened in a really, really long time. So we really feel like we have momentum on our side and have the right strategy.
And you're not just growing, you remain a trusted company. Newsweek just listed you, or recently listed you, as number 11 in terms of most trusted payment companies. Has that changed at all in the last several years? But the other question I have is, how do you build trust externally?
Tino, kudos for you. Incredible homework. Like a good investigative reporter. Um, we were really proud to be identified by Newsweek as one of the most trusted financial services and payments brands in the country. And the way that survey works, it's a blind survey. No one knows it's going out to 25,000 households. And on a blind basis, consumers list companies that they think are trusted. You don't get a list to choose from. You put on the survey who you think is trustworthy. And that didn't happen overnight, right? That happened because the company for 109 years has invested in it being trusted, making sure, going way back to the very beginning, that a check order was delivered on time with the right information, with the right colors or graphics. And that continues today. And that trust that was built by our legacy check business over 109 years, we are harnessing and leveraging to grow the payments business. I mean, if you think about it, Tino, and we talk about Deluxe as the original payments company, because we are. This is the company that created the checkbook, that for the last 50 years, people have been trying to disintermediate. And now we're in those businesses also growing the non-check businesses while managing a great check business over, going forward. And that's our pathway to transformation, using that great legacy of trust, 4,000 bank partners, millions of customers that trust us, and using that same technology trust to build new business and new technology in the payments and data space.
So, I'm in Atlanta, and your business is all over the country, all over beyond the country. Um, the We know that Atlanta has the reputation of being the epicenter for payments, right? Give us a challenge. How is Atlanta going to remain in that position as you look at how do you lean on Atlanta, but also what's it going to have to do to, because nothing lasts forever if you don't work on it.
So we were really deliberate, Tina, probably 4 years ago, in deciding where to locate our technology and customer experience center. And we did a complete comprehensive national search. And we landed on opening it in Atlanta for a couple reasons. First is that the culture of the community really is conducive for payments and technology companies. Um, Very quietly, I think you're aware, maybe the listeners are aware, Atlanta really has become the global center for payments. Financial technology, there are more financial technology companies in Metro Atlanta literally than anywhere else in the world. Every major payment processor, all the card brands, all have technology centers in Atlanta. I think that happened historically because the Federal Reserve here was here and supported payments, but then it became a self-fulfilling cycle with great education, similar businesses, great strong and government with fair and important regulation, a great airport, so it's easy to get in and out of Atlanta. I think Atlanta is going to have to keep focused on the technology sector broadly and fintech specifically. And I'm very optimistic. The University System of Georgia created the FinTech Academy, which is feeding work ready students' talent into our industry. I think that was incredibly revolutionary and will be helpful for the long term. And I think continued investment and focus on the industry as vital to the metro area and the state will continue to keep payments and fintech at the forefront.
So going a little deeper, talking about technology. So how do you see the role of technology evolving in the payments industry? What technological advancement do you believe will drive Deluxe in the future?
Well, clearly the hot topic at the moment is AI. And a couple years ago, it was blockchain. And before that, it was biometrics. There are always new technologies emerging. And what's so great and engaging, I think, about the payments and the fintech ecosystem is virtually any new technology that becomes available has an application in payments specifically. And why is that? Because commerce doesn't happen unless a payment has been made. A payment is at the very core of commerce, and makes it at the very core of the economy. Without a payment, there is no business, and then there is no economy. So you have to be able to make payments and do it in a secure way. And so AI is going to have, for example, tremendous impact on our industry. Everything from managing fraud in a better way to generating new products to delivering customer service in new ways we haven't even contemplated, um, and changing and creating new methods and pathways for payments. I don't know what all it's going to deliver. And that's sort of the really cool thing about AI. It's going to invent itself over time, and we get to figure out how to commercialize that and bring it to market. Um, all of those technologies have a role in fintech and payments. Um, it's one of the many reasons I think people are moving their careers towards fintech and payments because it really does have an opportunity to touch all of the new technologies.
And the Relevance team is talking to some of your team, and they're very talented in that space. And I think we're all trying to figure out what's real today, what we're using today,
Mm-hmm.
and what's going to be out there tomorrow.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of reality, but there's a
Yes.
lot of hype as well.
I agree. I think I am very, very bullish on AI because it's going to self generate new ideas, new technologies, new ways of doing things. It isn't just a technology that can be commercialized, it's actually going to create new things for us. And that's what's so, I think, so incredibly exciting.
I agree. So moving to your book, Small Business Revolution: How Owners and Entrepreneurs Can Succeed. Congratulations on this being a bestseller. Uh, Beyond that, how's the book been received, and what are the key messages, would you say, and takeaway? And everybody needs to buy the book, by the way. This is a free commercial for Barry and his book.
Thank you, Tino. What I would tell you is I think let's zoom out above the book for a second and then talk about the problem that it tried to address, along with our TV series by the same name. Um, Both the television series and the book were met with incredible success. And I think the reason for that is that the demand for knowledge and how to around business is really hard to get. So we created a TV show that became the number one program on Hulu, on a lifestyle program, number one program on Hulu. The book came out, debuted at number two on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. That doesn't happen just because it's got a nice cover. It's because it's providing content to people that really are looking for help and guidance. There's lots of programs out there on TV. There are many books that are out there that aren't just practical. Bring it down to A, then B, then C. Get stuck at the theory, or yes, you should be good to your employees, or yes, you should get up in the morning and be strong and a leader. But I need to figure out how to market my business better. I need to figure out how to hire an employee. I need to figure out how to understand a market. I need to figure out how to put all those things together in a comprehensive package. And both the TV program and the book do that in a very, very practical way. And I think the uptake and the response to it, I'd like to believe we did a nice job on them, but the real story is that the need for practical advice and help for small businesses. And I think the reason that really resonates with people, Tino, is most small business people don't get into business because they're like, yes, I want to be a business person. They get into the business because they're like, I really like to bake. I want to be a baker. I really like to sew. I'm a really good handyman and I want to have a handyman business. I really like growing things. So I'm going to be a farmer of sorts. People get into businesses because there's an aspect of the business that they really relate to. The part about running a business is what comes next. I think there are very few people that will ever wake up in the morning and go, hey, I just think I want to work on accounting today. They don't start businesses that way.
Right.
They start businesses because there's something they're passionate about. And then all the things that are necessary to support that business is what they work on next.
So one of the things you said in the book that I found interesting was, if I have this right, you said that in Deluxers, or people say it's not about you,
Yes.
but you also say it's all about you. So talk about those two philosophies and how they jive.
Yeah. So um, if you think back about being a successful business person and really understanding what the customer wants and needs, it's about finding out what they need, not what you need, what they need. In that example, meaning that don't build a product that you want, build a product that the customer wants. And for most small business people or business people in general, that's a novel concept. They're like, I really like oatmeal raisin cookies. Well, if the market wants to buy chocolate chip cookies, don't make any oatmeal cookies, make chocolate chip cookies. And that may seem very, very, very basic, but a lot of businesses, small businesses included, get that wrong. But then the part that it's not about you, but it is about you. Because if you're a leader of a business or a small business owner, if you don't inspire your team and you don't encourage and require your teams to deliver what the customer wants, not just what they want or what you want, you won't be successful. So it's not about you, get what the customer wants, but at the same time, make it about you and make sure that your team delivers what is needed to deliver for the customer.
I'm interested in watching more of the Hulu series, but I did catch a little bit of it so far. And you're helping communities in terms of identifying a company, but it seems like people are rallying around that beyond that company. So Deluxe has a history of working with small business and providing products and services for the small businesses. Is that always going to be your core, or is that evolving in terms of providing services to the largest enterprise businesses as well?
So, one of the things people don't know about Deluxe is the scale of our business. And more than half of the top 20 banks use one or more of our products and services. I think a similar number for the top 100 global brands. So our company is not a company that advertises broadly, but businesses use our products and services, and so do consumers. So I think the numbers are we support about 4 million small business customers, 4,000 financial institutions in the United States, and hundreds of the world's leading brands. And that plays into just the scale. So for example, we process about $3 trillion a year in payment volume from a company most people have never heard of, or I think the only thing we do is print checks. But
Checks.
$3 trillion a year of payment processing. It's roughly 15% of the US GDP. And then people like to say checks are going away, and they are slowly declining. but we still ship between 100 and 150,000 packages of checks every day.
Every day.
So every day. So there are billions of checks still being written every day. But our future clearly is a payments and data company, and we're going to be a great check printer until there's no demand for checks anymore. And that's a long, long time from now.
Still like checks.
Thank you. Write more checks.
Yeah, my wife does a good job at that, so we don't have any issues with that.
Well, use credit cards too.
Yeah,
Tino, that's good for us.
Okay. Well, we're down to the last question, Barry. And I always like to ask this as the last question. If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice regarding relevant leadership, what would it be?
Great question. I think employees want to work for people that they trust, that they respect, and help their work every day have meaning and purpose. And if you can do those things, I think you can be a really effective leader. And you can help people grow their careers. And when you grow their careers, you help your career succeed and help your company succeed. And it can, again, be a self-fulfilling cycle. Trust, respect, creating purpose and direction for the work to be done, I think is a great combo. And that leads to helping build their people's careers, develop them as individuals and as leaders themselves.
That's great. Well, Barry, thank you for joining me on Leading with Relevance. Thank you for the person that you are, the impact you're having on the community, on the business, and I'm enjoying your friendship. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Tino. Appreciate it.